Um, so it sounds like from your question, you've got a presentation set up for Thursday morning, and there's a bunch of new people that are now going to be there. So,
Exactly. So we had a very brief call on Monday morning,
mhm,
uh, and we chatted for about 30 minutes. Anything changed? What's new? And so, considering we've pushed so much new stuff into the product in the last 3 months, I wanted to
mhm,
go in and give them a proper demo. And so, my outcome for this is, I have the economic buyer, I have the decision maker, and then I have like the technical person that would theoretically help with implementation. But last minute, we had two, not last minute, with advance notice, we had two additional people who were dropped in as attendees
mhm.
into this particular demo. So, really, what I wanted to do initially was sorry. So, my question is going to be how do I change this agenda and this game plan in light of these two new people coming in?
Yeah.
I
Who
have
are
an
the
idea.
people? Like,
So,
what are the
the
roles?
Sure. So the attendees that we have there, the first is going to be the SVP of Strategy and Analysis,
Okay.
um, and then the essentially like a IT kind of sysadmin person. Those are the two people that I've met with a few times so far. Great rapport. We know each other. They see the value.
Okay.
The two new people that are being added are going to be the SVP of Marketing
Hmm.
and a recruitment operations manager. This is a staffing agency that we're selling to. I'm guessing that this recruitment operations manager is basically their Salesforce admin.
Okay. Interesting. It's funny because I just was reading an article this morning that said that there's an average of two, I think it was an average of two new buyers enter an enterprise sale the last 10% of the sale. So it's
Nice. So you're
happening.
saying we're close.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's actually could be a really good sign,
Mm-hmm.
as long as we know how to handle this. Um, so first of all, so on the screen, there's a template that's really useful for kicking off any kind of meeting involving your demo, because what this does, it does a couple of things, but most importantly, it forces us to make sure that we've covered the appropriate needs analysis conversation. Like, are we clear about, like, first of all, who's in the room, which you've done the research around that. Um, what is the critical business issue ultimately that the company needs to solve, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the problems or reasons that this CBI, this critical business issue, exists? And then, so the top three are kind of about the company you're selling to, and then the bottom three are about you, which are like, what are your capabilities relative to that CBI?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of delta would they achieve by deploying your software? And what's kind of the critical date? Meaning, is it that they need to get something rolled out by end of quarter, or they've got big marketing spends coming in Q2, and they need to be able to track the results of that marketing spend. Those kinds of things. So, do you feel like you could right now fill out this slide and present it before you show the demo to the people in the room?
Very easily.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, and that would be the plan too. Instead of just launching into the demo, I'm basically going to say, "Really nice to meet you. I've met with, these two people a few times already, and I just want to kind of review my understanding of the problem to see if there's anything that you feel like we've missed."
Yeah.
And so it's almost like if they say no, you've pretty much summed it up. I don't think that'll happen, but if they do, then it's
Yeah.
like I think we're golden. And we move forward from there. Like the other good news is the economic buyer has even said to me, she's like, "Hey, if you have any questions in advance of the demo, feel free to send me an email or call me." So I'm planning to shoot her a note tomorrow morning,
Mm-hmm.
or even tonight before I go to bed,
Yeah.
just because I think that's a great opportunity to clarify stuff.
Yep.
Um,
Do you have her mobile? Can you text?
uh, I think so.
Might be worth a text, um, just to kind of open up that channel. But generally, it sounds like you've laid a lot of the groundwork. I would recommend actually using this exact slide template, just so that all of the key information that you've accrued is all in one place, and basically you just go line by
Mhm.
line. Like, okay, so everybody in the room, as I understand it from previous conversations, this is the critical business issue that you're looking to tackle, and this should be like one thing, not like seven things. You need to be able to focus in on what is the critical one.
Mhm.
Um, and just go through it like line by line. Did I get that right? Yes. Okay. And the reason this exists is because of these things. Did I get that right? Yes. Cool. So good news, our capabilities are that. And based on what I've seen with other clients just like you, here's the delta. And you've got this critical date by when you want to implement the solution. Did I get that right? Yes. So you're doing everything that you're saying that you would have done anyway, you're just putting it into one slide. I would obviously recommend using a much fancier font and stuff, but so that leads us to these two new people. So one of the things I typically will do is, just like you're going to shoot a note to that CEO, I would shoot a note and even call those two other people and say, look, excited to have you. I know we haven't chatted. And then I ask them this one question. What in particular would you like to cover tomorrow? Or is there a specific question that you have, or is there something that you would like us to make sure that we discuss? So you're just kind of looking for that one thing.
Sure.
That's their top.
Yeah, and that's also probably a good idea, because the worst thing that could happen is we show up and one or both of them are like, I don't know why the hell I'm here.
Yeah.
And so this would kind of be a forcing function to, link them to the website and
yeah. I mean,
if they don't know what we do, I can
sort of like
feed it before we.
Yeah. I think of it in kind of like best case, worst case, like I was talking about before, which is, okay, best case scenario, they both get back to you and they both tell you really specific points so that you can integrate that into the presentation. Worst case scenario, you send the emails, they never get back to you, but likelihood is they'll show up to the meeting and probably immediately apologize to you for not getting back to you. Like I've had this happen before where people get added. This happened a lot at banks where we thought we were going to have 4 people in the room. And then it was like, bing, 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 bing. And like 7 other people all of a sudden were added to the invite 3 days ahead. We're like, oh shit. And what happened a lot of times is I would just say, hey, Scott Sambucci, good to meet you. And they go, yeah, I saw your email. I just got busy and I'm starting to get back to you, but, really excited to, hear about what you guys do. Because then it at least kind of gives you this control, or you kind of hand in the relationship, to use the Seinfeldian quote.
So quick follow-up. So once we kind of confirm the problems and stuff like that, I think the other thing that I'm a little bit worried about is we start to move into the actual demo, and there's 2 ways I can approach this. The first is to do a live demo. We open up the product, sample portal, everything. The other approach would be, I take screenshots and slap them on a deck, right? My biggest concern there is our product does a lot and it's kind of easy to get in the weeds with it.
Yep.
So I'm worried that if we do a live demo, they'll be like, oh, what does that button do? Oh, hey, click that for a second. Oh, let me see this. And then we kind of get away from, look at this one specific pain point. So I'm curious if you have any strategies for like keeping them on that one point.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you asked this because I was going to go there next. So it's even better that you asked. So you want to think tip of the spear. So show the absolute minimum. If you can do a screenshot that directly shows how you address that critical business issue, it's like, ta-da. Like we're not writing a novel here where we want to take 17 chapters to build up to the big climax here. It's like, let's get to the most important thing first. Then you can always peel back the layers. Because like if you have, let's say your ta-da slide is the dashboard, right? And they're like, okay, what's this? We're like, well, this is the dashboard. This is how people, ultimately this is the value, right? You get to see these things. Then they'll probably ask, oh, well, how do you do this? Well, how do I get to that dashboard? Oh, well, you click these buttons. Or how do I hook up Salesforce to this? Oh, that's really easy. Let me show you. But exactly what you described, you want to avoid, which is like building up 17 clicks to finally getting to the ta-da. You'll end up with all of these different rabbit holes. You'll never get to the ta-da, and by the time you do, people have lost enthusiasm.
Yeah, we can always keep the live product behind the slides too, if we really want to.
And I just tell people, look, I mean, here's the, like in this case, because the nice thing is once you show this slide, they're like, yeah, we have this problem. This is our business issue. Glad to see that you guys can measure delta. Yes, you got the date right. And then the next thing you do is like, because it's like, this is your problem. This is your situation. You need help. And then you show them, here's a solution. That's when you've kind of like dug the pain a little bit, because they're seeing it in this slide. And then you see the solution and they're like, "Ah," you know, because if you then revert back to, this is how you log in. And if, oh, by the way, if you forget your passcode, then you click this button, like obviously you're not going to do all those things. So just focus on the end, and then you can only work backwards if they want to see functionality.
Okay. Yeah. Super. So one other thing, I am almost certain that this person is the economic buyer, right? Like based on my knowledge of the business and talking to her, whatever, but there is another peer level executive in the room, right? Like SVP of strategy, SVP of marketing. Both of them could, you could make a reasonable case for either one of them actually being the decision maker. Is there a particularly tactful way that I can find that out? I mean, I honestly, like, my plan was just to send Lisa a note tonight and have that be item number one. But then that also kind of sounds, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. Just feels
like
weird.
So I know everybody's important, but who's the most important?
Yeah, right? That's exactly what it is.
I think you could probably assume, I think now, because of the consensus nature of selling, that while the economic buyer is the one writing the check, they're like, no CEO in their right mind is going to make a unilateral decision and then push something down into their team that the team doesn't want. So I think they're both going to be equally important. If the economic buyer is already on board, it sounds like even a bit of a product champion, and that they're willing to have you call them or email with any additional questions, then the real sale here is getting the marketing person to feel, and the strategy person to feel like they're bought in. Like this is their decision, and this is for them, and it wasn't something that's getting forced upon them.
Okay.
How do you think you might do that?
I think I might think about it for a while.
Okay.
I definitely hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are the things they care most about, right? If I'm a VP of strategy or SVP of strategy or a SVP of marketing.
Sure. I mean, VP of strategy and analytics is like, I'm going to look at all of the massive amounts of data that are coming into this organization, right? And I'm going to help them make the right decisions with that data. And part of that is if that data that we need to make decisions is missing, we're going to go get that data.
Right.
So on the one hand, that's where it falls into the SVP of analytics. But on the other hand, it's actually going to impact the day-to-day tactical of the marketing. And, having been an SVP of marketing, I know that, you're right. Like somebody passing this thing off from down high would not sit well with me. But somebody, being willing to take money out of their own budget and give it to me to make my job a lot easier, that story resonates with me a lot.
Yeah. Like if I'm the SVP of strategy, I'm thinking, if I have your platform, then if I'm going to recommend a strategy and I know I'm right, then your platform will give me the proof that I'm right. Now, if I'm the SVP of strategy and I'm going to recommend a strategy that the data doesn't support, now I can avoid recommending a strategy that would be wrong. So if I'm right, it's going to prove that I'm right. If I'm wrong, it will help me prevent others from knowing I would have been wrong.
Yeah, or also it's like, don't blame me, I just did what the data told me to do.
Well, that too, but it just seems like for them it's lost. It's definitely loss prevention in the sense that basically you never have to worry about being wrong.
Right.
I mean, if the data's supporting you should do these things, and I'm telling you should do these things, well, you don't have to believe me. Here's the data that tells you that I'm right. And on the other hand, if I think I'm going to recommend a strategy, I can go and research it first and go like, oh shit, actually, if I hypothesis test that assumption, turns out the data doesn't support that. So I'm not going to recommend that strategy and look like an idiot.
Yeah,
So there's like no downside to using it.
I agree.
Is this helpful?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
this is super helpful.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the in your mind, how many slides make up that? Hey, let me show you screenshots of the product.
No more than 2.
Okay, that's good because I would have done a lot more than 2.
Yeah. If you're gonna do more than 2, then you might as well just do the whole product demo. So think of it as, get to the point first, tell the punchline, and then work backwards on the joke.
Okay.
It's really challenging. A lot of teams struggle with this because they feel like the problem is we've all sat on so many demos that everybody does it the wrong way. We just assume that's the way to do demos. And secondly, we're really proud of the product. There's lots of cool features and there's lots of things we want to show because we've devoted our life to building this thing. So we want to show it. So it's sometimes very counterintuitive to say, well, why would I just want to show the aha slide? That's the big aha. So I want to build up to that when in fact, what we want to do is show the aha slide first and then peel back the layers as needed.
Okay.
And if the questions start to get a bit technical,
Mm-hmm.
and you have the right to say, that's a really great question, let me come back to that. Or so that, we could probably talk for 3 hours about all the technical things. If we need to set up a separate conversation, happy to do that, or happy to stay a little bit after,
Mm-hmm.
just so that I know we only have, 14 minutes left. So let's just, I promise you we'll cover it. Let's just kind of table it. Would that be okay?
Perfect. Yeah. So speaking of by the way, is anyone else waiting to?
No, you're good, man.
Great. So speaking of only 14 minutes left or whatever, as we start to wrap this up, I mean, my outcome is let's do it, right? The ideal outcome is I walk out of the room, and on my commute back to the office, they're just like, yes, let's buy it. They give us a call, we put the PO together, and we're off to the races. I would love to own the next steps, right? Present this to them. I'm trying to figure out a better way of saying well, I mean, next steps are you decide if you, one, if we've answered all of your questions and you think we can solve your problem, and two is well, when do you want to get started, right? I mean,
so this is where you want to future pace, get past the decision. Don't even worry about the decision. Instead, talk about implementation.
Okay.
And so, you're getting towards the end of the meeting, you might even say, look, I know we're coming up to coming up towards the top of the hour, the end of the hour, whatever. There's a few things that a lot of people like to ask us as it relates to implementation. So if you don't mind, how about we cover 2 or 3 things just so you have a view of, if you guys decide to buy this, or if you decide to implement this, this is how it would work. Mm-hmm. Step 1 is, on that video I did for you yesterday, is step 1, we set up the account. Step 2, our team configures it. Step 3, you get the data. Whatever those, give them a 3-step plan to implementation, so that they're mentally actually going all the way past this kind of barrier of decision, instead thinking forward, past the decision on implementation, because that'll give you the opportunity to future pace. They'll start thinking about how they're using it. And mostly it will also give you an opportunity to uncover any landmines that might exist when it comes to implementation. Maybe they'll say, well, we really want to get started, but we can't because of this, this, and this. Now you have an opportunity to handle that objection. Or, okay, we really want to get started, but what do you mean you have to hook up to our systems? What does that involve? We don't have IT resources. Oh, totally understand your question. A lot of people think that they have to devote 20 hours of your own personal IT time to this. Here's the good news, blah, 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 blah. So it's a chance to kind of smoke out objections when it comes to implementation.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad I'm not just going to finish it by saying, so, when do you want to get started, or some sort of presumptuous thing like that. I've never liked that.
Yeah, I mean, and you'll never get that anyway. Like, even if they're all thinking it, they're never going to tell you, congratulations, you got the account. Great job. You sold us. It's just not the way it works. They'll say, this looks really great. Send us this, or we'll circle up and we'll get back to you. And that's where you want to be able to have a specific follow-up time, or I don't know if there's like a homework assignment or two you can give to them.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something that you could ask them to do?
Yeah, there is one. I mean, especially since we talked about we were going to change pricing to be based off of channels. I actually thought about asking them how many channels they have, because I'm sure the SVP of marketing will ask me, so like, how much is this thing?
Yeah.
And like, I've already kind of put them off. I said, well, originally we thought it was going to be close to da 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 da, but now I could just say, wow, I asked for a poll of how many channels you have, and it is blank. So actually, I'm going to add that to my list. I'll definitely ask that.
Yeah. So is there some kind of like action item around that either you can give to them or you guys have to do together, like some kind of audit, like a channel audit or something like that? Here's the estimated price in order to get you, actual plus a view of implementation. We need to grab 15 minutes and look at, do a channel audit.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, oh, okay, cool. Let's do that. Let's set that meeting. Cool. How about Friday? How about tomorrow? And they go, great. And it's a chance for you to keep control of the sale. It's a chance to kind of continue to close any open loops.
Mm-hmm.